Hello, Giants fans, and welcome to a new edition of the Valentine's Views podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. And if you're listening across the Big Blue View radio network, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, let's get right into it. This is the Evan Neal Does a Really Stupid Thing edition of the podcast. Neal, of course, speaking to Daryl Slater of NJ.com on Wednesday afternoon, pretty much went scorched earth on Giants fans. He ripped Giants fans, calling them sheep, saying there was no reason for him to listen to them, referring to himself as a lion. Basically saying that fans are front runners, and that that he's playing pretty well. Let's see if I can actually find some of the actual exact wording from Neal here. He said, "Why would the lion concern himself with the opinion of a sheep?" Said that the person that's commenting on my performance, what does he do? Flip hot dogs and hamburgers somewhere? This was not good by Evan Neal. Not good at all. Not a good look for the 2022 number 7 overall pick by the Giants. Not a smart idea. As I wrote at Big Blue View on Wednesday night, never, ever, 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 ever a good idea for a player to take on a fan base. Never a good idea to wade into any of the social media nonsense. And I know Neal has been taking a lot of abuse, a lot of criticism on social media because of his poor play, because of the Giants' poor play overall. He's a 23-year-old young man who just made a really bad mistake. I know how frustrated he is. And I know that this is a young man, in my view, and I'm not going to go scorched earth on Evan Neal. I'm not going to do that. I think this is a young man, an accountable young man, a guy who I've had a lot of good conversations with over the last couple of years, a guy who works hard at his craft, a guy who desperately wants to be good at what he does. This is a frustrated young man, always been the best player, always been the big guy, one of the best high school football players in the country, one of the most highly recruited players in the country coming out of high school, went to Alabama, won a national championship, was the best offensive lineman on the best team in the country, number 7 overall pick. This is a 23-year-old kid who has never failed before. He's never played on a bad football team before. He's never been in a media market like the New York, New Jersey media market. He's never had to answer the kind of questions and deal with the kind of failure that he's dealing with right now. And Evan Neal made a bad mistake on Wednesday afternoon. Does that mean he's a bad guy? I absolutely do not think Evan Neal is a bad guy. As I said, this is a hardworking young man who wants to be good at his craft and has done everything he can in the off season. He's done everything he can to reshape his body, to improve his technique, to try to get better. And right now, what we see on the field is it's just not working. It's just, Neal may say that he feels like he's getting better, but we don't see the results on the field. Fans are frustrated. Fans understand the kind of play that you're supposed to get from a number 7 overall pick in the draft. And Neal has become an easy target for fans who are frustrated with the play of the what really might be the worst offensive line in the NFL. There are a lot of comparisons between Neal and Eric Flowers, and I can't go there. I can't agree with them. You can compare their play, and it's easy to do because Flowers was a failed first-round pick as a left tackle by the Giants. Neal is a vastly different personality. I never found Flowers to be accountable. In dealing and being in the Giants locker room, I always had the impression that Flowers was an outsider who was not liked by most of his teammates. He often left his teammates to speak for him rather than be accountable. And I never really had the impression that Eric Flowers was a guy who either knew how to or cared enough to really, really dive in and work at his craft and try to get better. I think that Evan Neal is a kid who obviously wants to be better. He obviously wants to succeed. He obviously wants to get it right. It's just not happening. And he let his frustration boil over and made a bad mistake on Wednesday afternoon. I'm just not going to kill him. I mean, obviously he made a mistake. I am just not going to bury him and say that he's a bad guy. Now, what does Evan Neal's future hold? I don't know. I've chatted with a few people in the amount of time that it's been since Neal's remarks to Daryl Slater became public. There's a little bit of a mixed opinion on whether or not Neal basically just wrote his ticket out of New York. I don't think that he did, but I also don't think he made it any easier for him to succeed in New York. The only thing Evan Neal can do now is be quiet, take whatever vitriol comes his way, whatever memes, whatever darts come his way on social media, and just deal with it. Be quiet about it. Don't react to it. The only thing he can do is play football and try to be the player that the Giants expected him to be. If he can't be that player, then maybe Joe Shane has a decision to make. Maybe Joe will have to consider moving on, especially since Neal has now burned that bridge with the fan base. We all know that what's going to happen with Neal every time he has a terrible rep, every time he has a bad game, whenever any of that happens, what happened today, his remarks today are going to resurface. They're never going to be forgotten. The only way he can make Giants fans forgive and forget is to become a top tier right tackle in the NFL. And I don't know if he's capable of that at this point. We all still want to believe that he is. The Giants invested a number 7 overall pick. So we'll see what happens. But this is a guy, the last thing I'll say is this is a guy who's never made headlines for the wrong reasons before. So as bad as this was, my inclination, based on my dealings in the past with the young man, my inclination is to say he made a bad mistake. I know a lot of people won't forgive him for it, but I think he made a bad mistake. And the question now is, does he bounce back from it? Does he understand that he made a mistake? And does he play the way that the Giants need him to play? If he doesn't, then, as I said, maybe Joe Shane has a decision to make coming up this offseason. Anyway, Giants fans, please leave a comment to let us know, how you feel about the Neal situation if you're watching us on YouTube. And please go to bigblueview.com and read the post that I wrote about the Neal situation. Leave a comment there if you choose to. All right, Giants fans, thank you very, very much for listening. Please stay safe out there. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.